Why I failed my first job interview. I still remember that morning like it was yesterday. It was the day of my very first job interview, and I truly believed my life was about to change. I woke up earlier than usual, not because I had to, but because I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing with thoughts, possibilities, and, honestly, fear. What if I mess up? What if they don't like me? What if I say something stupid? But then I looked at myself in the mirror and said, "No, today is my day." I had prepared for this moment for weeks. I had printed my resume multiple times. I had chosen my best outfit. I had even practiced answers to common interview questions. At least, I thought I had prepared. On my way to the office, everything felt different. The streets looked sharper, the sounds felt louder, even the air felt heavier. I kept imagining how the interview would go. I saw myself confidently answering questions. I imagined the interviewer smiling, impressed. I imagined walking out with a job offer. In my head, I had already succeeded. But reality had something else planned. When I reached the building, my confidence suddenly dropped. It was bigger than I expected, more professional, more serious. People were walking in and out, all looking busy and important. And there I was, holding my file tightly, trying to act like I belonged there. I walked up to the reception desk and said, "Hi, I'm here for an interview." My voice wasn't as steady as I hoped it would be. The receptionist smiled politely and asked me to wait. So I sat there. And that's when it really hit me. This was real. The waiting room was quiet, but my mind wasn't. Every second felt like a minute. Every minute felt like an hour. There were a few other candidates sitting there too. All of them looked confident. Some were scrolling through their phones. Some were reviewing notes. And then there was me, overthinking everything. They look more prepared than me. They probably have more experience. What if I'm not good enough? That was my first mistake. I started comparing myself. Instead of focusing on my strengths, I focused on my fears. Finally, my name was called. My heart started beating faster. I stood up, adjusted my shirt, and walked into the interview room. There were two people sitting across the table. They smiled and greeted me. I smiled back, but inside, I was panicking. "Sit down," they said. And just like that, it began. The first question was simple. Tell me about yourself. I had practiced this question so many times, but in that moment, my mind went blank. I started speaking, but it didn't sound natural. It sounded rehearsed, like I was reading from a script in my head. I used big words, complicated sentences, trying too hard to impress. Instead of being real, I tried to be perfect. And they noticed. The next question was a bit more specific, but I was so busy thinking about my next answer that I didn't fully listen to the question. So I gave an answer that didn't really match what they asked. They looked at each other. And in that moment, I knew something was wrong. But instead of correcting myself, I kept going, trying to cover up my mistake with more words. That only made it worse. They asked me about my strengths. I had many, but I didn't present them confidently. My voice was shaky. My sentences were unclear. I avoided eye contact. I looked down, fidgeted with my hands, and rushed my answers. Instead of showing confidence, I showed doubt. And if you don't believe in yourself, why should anyone else?
Then came the question, why do you want to work here? This was my chance to stand out, but I failed. I gave a very generic answer. I want to grow my career, and your company is very good. That was it. No research, no specifics, no genuine connection. It sounded like something I could say to any company, and that was the problem. At the end of the interview, they asked, "Do you have any questions for us?" I had prepared some questions, but in that moment, I just wanted it to end. So I said, "No, I think everything is clear." Big mistake. That was my opportunity to show interest, curiosity, and enthusiasm, but I let it go. The interview ended. I thanked them and walked out. As soon as I stepped outside, I knew I had messed up. All the confidence I had in the morning was gone. I replayed every moment in my head, every mistake, every awkward pause, every wrong answer. And it hurt. A few days later, I got the email. "Thank you for your interest, but we have decided to move forward with other candidates." It was polite, but it still felt like a punch in the stomach. I sat there, staring at the screen, disappointed, frustrated, embarrassed. But after some time, I started thinking, what really went wrong? It wasn't that I wasn't capable. It wasn't that I didn't deserve the job. It was how I presented myself. I realized something important. An interview is not a test of perfection. It's a test of connection. They don't just want to know what you know. They want to know who you are. That failure taught me lessons I will never forget. Lesson 1, be yourself. Stop trying to sound perfect. Be real. Be human. Lesson 2, preparation matters. Not just practicing answers, but understanding the company and the role. Lesson 3, listen carefully. Don't rush. Understand the question before answering. Lesson 4, confidence comes from clarity. Know your story. Know your strengths. Lesson 5, show interest. Ask questions. Be curious. Engage in the conversation. After that failure, I didn't give up. I improved. I practiced again, but this time differently. I focused on being natural instead of perfect. I researched companies deeply. I worked on my communication. And slowly, things started to change. When I went for my second interview, I was still nervous, but this time I was ready. I spoke naturally. I listened carefully. I smiled more. I connected with the interviewer. And at the end, I asked thoughtful questions. A few days later, I got the call. You're selected. Looking back, I'm actually grateful for that first failure because it taught me what success never could. Sometimes, failing your first interview is the best thing that can happen to you because it forces you to grow, to improve, to become better. So if you've ever failed an interview, don't be discouraged. You're not rejected. You're redirected. Your first interview doesn't define your future, but how you learn from it does.